We're going to finish off today's episode by speaking with Professor Jon Carroll. He's a professor of anthropology at Oakland University, and he's created a new academic minor in applied geographic information science, a field with lots of applications on real-life problems. And so, John, for those that are not familiar, what is geographic information science, and how is it applied in everyday life and industry?
Well, thank you for your invitation. Everybody's familiar with GI science, whether they realize it or not. If you've ever used Google Earth or used your cell phone to navigate to a destination and you've used GI science, a lot of people think about the software as the focus of GI science, but it's really not. It's GI science encompasses the principles of the science behind the technology that you're using in addition to the technology. So anytime you see someone out in the field surveying for a new building, anytime you use your computer navigation on your phone, anytime you Zillow, for example, to look for a new house, you're using geographic information science. You just may not realize it.
And a lot of times these surveys used to be done in a much more hands-on manner. And mind you, they're still hands-on. It's just using a lot of technology in our modern era. What are some of the technological devices and systems that are in play when someone is applying GI science out in the field today?
Well, of course, computers and computer software are at the heart of it, and that's what we excel at Oakland University, is teaching students the fundamentals of the software, how to do computer mapping, and then we move out into the other kinds of technologies that you would employ in the field. I personally use a lot of drones and do drone mapping and 3D modeling, both for archaeological sites and for the physical environment, and on the different projects that I'm working on. A lot of again, if you go to a construction site and you see someone doing a survey using a survey instrument, the principles that they're using have been around for hundreds of years, but what they're doing now is taking all that data, synthesizing it with computers and putting it into a computer and doing very sophisticated measurements, modeling, spatial analysis. So, the technologies vary, but it's high precision GPS, precision survey instruments, drones that you're most likely to run into out in the field these days.
We're joined by Professor Jon Carroll. He's an anthropology professor at Oakland University and has created their new academic minor in applied geographic information science. Joins us today on the MegaCast. And Professor, in terms of applications of GI science, you mentioned many of them, such as Google Earth or learning about a house that you're going to be buying or something like that use some GI sciences. But in terms of other applications out in everyday life and in the sciences and in industries, what are some of the more common uses or critical uses of GI science that are helpful to our society today that maybe people aren't aware of?
Sure. Well, I can give you an example of an applied anthropology project that I've worked on in Africa, where we're using drones for high precision crop monitoring in the face of climate change. And so what we're seeing is that in a place like Malawi, East Africa, where I've worked, climate change is affecting small farmers very drastically. And so we can use technologies like drones at the household farm level to help people get a better sense of how well crops are doing and where they might be able to apply fertilizer or water in an environment where those elements are very expensive, and if the crops fail, it may be disastrous for everyone. So that's one way that we use GI science, the technologies such as drones, to improve people's lives, and of course it's tied to climate change, which everybody's familiar with.
We're joined by Professor Jon Carroll, Professor of Anthropology at Oakland University, joining us today on the MegaCast. And in terms of this minor, what does the coursework look like? I know that you were quoted as saying it's very flexible, that this minor is a very flexible minor. So what can students expect that they do if they do pursue this minor, to experience in terms of what they're learning in the classroom?
Well, when I was putting the minor together, my goal was to bring this science and this technology to anyone on campus that wants to develop the expertise. So it wasn't just for anthropologists or archaeologists like myself. I wanted to make the minor flexible, so if you were into healthcare, if you were a business major, if you were an English major, it really didn't matter as long as you got the fundamentals of the program in place. So we start with a 3-course sequence, which gives you the basics of the software. It also gives you the fundamental principles of how to make maps, and finally, how to use satellite and aerial imagery to bring different data sets together. Those 3 core courses help you do that. And then we have 2 additional courses, one of which is an advanced course in your own home major, whatever that may be. You work with a professor that has some kind of GI science background, and you learn more about how science is used in your home field. And then finally, you take it out into the world, either through a directed research course or an internship, and you actually apply all of these principles to a real world problem. And I think that that's what makes us so very different than many GI science programs, is that we just don't show you the technology, we actually show you how to apply it. And that's why I want to call the minor Applied Geographic Information Science.
We're joined by Jon Carroll. He's a professor of anthropology at Oakland University, talking about a new minor he's established in Applied Geographic Information Science. Lots of applications to real-life problems and can be used across different industries, which is why this is open to students regardless of their major or their home department. And there's also graduate coursework that's offered as well for this minor. So, Professor, just another couple minutes left with you today. Who are people that, what majors would you say, people or areas of study would you say are the best students to consider this minor?
Anyone who's interested in solving real world problems or answering real world questions. So, like I said, because the minor is so flexible, as long as there's some kind of geographic component, in other words, something related to either space or place, and you're interested in understanding that, data, researching, synthesizing, this minor is for you. And as I mentioned before, this is not a classroom exercise. We are interested in solving real problems like disease infection patterns, food security, understanding the lives in the past through the archaeological record. We're out in the world using this stuff all the time. And so I just get very excited about the prospect of training the next generation about these technologies and looking at their creativity and understanding how they want to use this technology for the stuff that they're interested in. So I'm very excited that we have this. You're really only limited by your imagination in terms of how you employ this technology in science.